3枚あります。
So there should be 3 pages to the printout that I gave you.
1枚目はすごくシンプルな、スリーブのパターンです。
The very first one is a very basic, very simple sleeve pattern.
でそれをアレンジしていくものが2枚目、3枚目です。
And then arrangements on that are the second and the third page. It's little
で
adaptations.
はい。で、アレンジをしたパターンを弾くためには、一番ベーシックなものが弾けないとアレンジがしていけないんですね。
So if you wanted to make more of the intricate sleeves, you do have to master making the basic sleeve first.
はい。なので、ちょっと今回もう分かっている人もいるかもしれないんですけど、ベーシックな袖のパターンをまだちょっと私が書いていきます。説明しながら。
So I know some of you here have already knows how to make your own patterns. However, very, very quickly and briefly, I wanted to go over how to make a basic pattern for your sleeves.
で、細かいことを言うと難しすぎるので、ザザッと大きく説明します。
So if I spend too much in detail, it might be a little bit complicated. So very, very basic overview of how to make a sleeve pattern.
まず横の線と縦の線1本ずつ引きます。
The very first thing is you want to make a horizontal and a vertical line. Can everyone see? Okay.
で、これに対して垂直まっすぐに。
So you make your horizontal line and then your vertical line on top of your horizontal line. In relation to, I should say.
こんな感じ。
Just like this.
で、次は、1枚目の紙に書いてあるんですけど、
If you look in your first page,
ボディの服ですね。ボディの服の方。
you'll see the body part of the clothing.
この袖のところを一周したものを AH と書いてあります。アームホールという。
You should see AH and indicates armhole, which means the part that connects to the body part.
当然ね、ボディと袖はつきますから、このサイズをちゃんとまずチェックする。本体の服のサイズをこうやって、測って何センチだって測ってからパターンを袖は引きます。
So of course, because it has to attach to the body part, it's really, really important to have an accurate measure of the arm sleeve part, the hole, right here, where she just kind of showed you right now, but to measure that out exactly.
で、簡単な数字が書いてます。アームホールを、半分にして、それに 0.5 センチ、センチです。ちょっとだけ数字を足すみたいな数字が書いてます。プリント見てください。
So if you look on your handout, you'll see that there is this AH, which is the armhole, over 2, so divided by 2 because you're going to cut it in half, minus 0.5 centimeters. It's a very small amount, but just a little bit of leeway.
めんどくさかったらアームホールを全部一周測って半分にしてください。もうそれで大丈夫。
If it's really annoying, you can just measure your armhole length and just cut it in half. Just don't worry about the 0.5.
この小さな数字に意味はあるけれど、そこまで考えてるとわからないってなるなら、カットしても大体は大丈夫。
There is a meaning behind the 0.5, but if it's just too annoying and you're going to get lots of headaches, just forget about the 0.5.
で、今回わかりやすくしましょうか。何センチにしようかな。これに書いてないな。じゃあもうちょっと50センチにした場合にしちゃいますね。
Hold on, I have to convert something.
何インチだ。
50センチが 19.7.
じゃあ20センチにしちゃいましょうか。
そうですね。So we're converting 50 centimeters, but it's about 20 inches. So she's going to write here, armhole equals 20 or 50 centimeters.
これをハーフにしたら、
These are her measurements, by the way, so they'll be different, of course, for everyone.
こにこんな感じで。
So kind of like this. So you should make a triangle with the measurements that you have here.
ここで初めてこの横の線はサイズが出ます。
So this is the very first time, like after you measure out your armhole length, you'll know the distance between here and here.
はい。で、次は今ちょっとなんとなく袖のこれは長さなんですね。縦は長さ。
So the vertical line is going to be the length of your sleeve.
で、私の身長くらいで だいたい、56センチ、22インチくらいなんです。
So if you're about my height, your arm will be about 56 centimeters, which we're guessing is about 22 inches.
これはもう自分のね袖を一度測って覚えておけば、頭にずっと入れておけば、何も考えずに、私は22インチだってすぐ弾けるようになります。
But if you stopped growing and you're the same, once you measure it once and you just remember that number, you can just use that number forever and ever. So.
はい。で、ここまでなんとなく簡単そうでいけそうですね。
So, any questions so far? We're good right now, or? 一番最初のスタート地点がここなんですか？
なんかね、この辺にある骨っぽい辺。
There's like a bone, like part that jolts out here. From there, yeah.
ここから測るこの
And
手首の
then
骨まで。
all the way to the bone on your wrist area, like when you curve your wrist. So from there to here. For her, 22. But
で、今度はここの長さ。
now we're gonna do the length down here.
これもうなんだろう。ジャケットの袖
This is like the sleeve from the jacket.
の袖だとだいたいまあだいたい10インチです。
So this is about 10 inches or so, but this is also measurements like if you were making a jacket sleeve, by the way.
学生服みたいなジャケットです。
Kind of like if you've seen the school uniforms with boys in Japan, they have like the little jackets.
とりあえずまあ長さは22インチ、ここは袖のここは10インチ。これがなんとなく頭に全部覚えてるようになればすぐ弾けるようになっちゃいます。
So once you like kind of memorize the basics of like, all right, your length is going to be 22 inches and then the sleeve length will be 10 inches, you can make a pattern very, very quickly.
でここまでできたらなんとなくできてきましたけど、ちょっとてっぺんにまたまっすぐの線を一本にし
So at the very, very top, we're also going to add one straight line.
はい。で、5センチって何インチだろう。5センチ。すみません、インチ。
1.9、まあ2インチですね。
2ですね。2インチでちょっとチェック入れてください。
So you want to make the horizontal line and then do 2 inches on each side of the point. You add like a little marker, so you know.
3.5
And then from here, you also want to make a little indication, little marker of 1.5 inches from both sides.
ちょっとだけちょんちょんちょんちょん、わかりやすい数字にしてます。
So this is like I've rounded all the numbers in inches to make it a little bit easier.
プリントとはちょっと数字違うんですけど、みんながわかりやすいようにちょっとわかりやすい数字でやってます。
So your handout's going to have different numbers. I just rounded it so you can understand it a little better. You don't have to complicate decimals.
足したチェックとチェック引いちゃいます。
So you're going to draw a line from the point, the top point to this one, and that one to that one.
はい。で、ここまでできるとですね、なんと世の中にはこういうパターンを引く用のスケールっていうのが売ってるんですね。
So in this world, actually, we have these like scales, these like ruler things that are specifically designed for making patterns.
はい。これは私の通っていたファッションデザインのスクールで買ったものです。
This is something that I bought at the fashion school that I went to.
でこれはもともととてもいいものです。
This is actually really, really handy. I highly recommend finding one.
まずこの丸いとこを使ってこ
I'm
の
going to use the circular part
カーブを取っちゃいます。
and take off this little, like a curve.
ピッとここ丸くしちゃいます。
So you want to make one giant curve there. So take off the angle.
はい。ここもカーブを取りにします。
There we're going to do the same thing. You're going to add a little curve.
でこのパターン用のスケールがあるとここのカーブがもうこうジャストになるようになってますね。
So if you have this, actually this tool, it's so easy because they've already like made the perfect curvature. You just follow the line.
そしてこちらはもう片方を使うとこれはまたいい感じです。
And this side too, if you use the other side, you make a very, very nice and even curve.
で、こっちがフロント、こちらはバック側です。
This F is labeled for front, the front side, and this is the back side.
で、フロントの方が人間の腕って実は少し前についてるんですね。
This is like humans actually, the arms, your front is a little bit longer, like you need a little bit more space.
なのでちょっとこう実はこっちのカーブの方がこうギュッとこう。
So if you notice, this curve is a little bit steeper than the other side.
袖ってね、ちょっと前についてるので前の方が動きやすいように本当は実はしてあります。街で売ってるパターンにも。
So a lot of times when you see pre-made patterns, they're not completely even. Actually, the front is adjusted so that it gives you more area to move your arm.
なのでこのスケールのこちらのカーブとこっちのカーブの形が違うのはフロントとバック用だんですね。
So the reason why the two curves are different on this tool also is because we have the front and we also have the back, and the curves are different sizes.
もし自分でスケール買いに行った時、この形はどういう意味だって思ったら思い出してください。
So if you ever find this in the store and you're like, why are the curves different? Just remember my story just now and you'll be fine.
はい。で、これで実はもう一番ベーシックな袖のパターンが引けています。
So actually this is the end. This is your basic sleeve pattern.
そうですね。よいしょ。汚いね。これでまあすごくベーシックな袖のパターンです。
So this is how we create the most basic, the most simple
なんとな
sleeve.
くね、プリントで見るとなんだこれよくわかんないやって思うんですけど、今引いたの見たらあれなんか引けそうだぞって思ってもらえたらいいなと思います。
So if you look at the handout that I gave you, it might seem a little bit complicated with all these like numbers and measurements, but with seeing the explanation and seeing the visual, I hope that it makes this a lot easier. So maybe you can make some at home.
はい。ということで、じゃあまずこの袖を縫い付けるのをやっちゃおうかな。
So first, I'm just going to show you how to attach a sleeve to a body.
袖を縫うためには前と後ろがいるのでちょっと今から作りたいんですが。
So in order to attach the sleeve, I need to create my body piece first. So just give me one moment while but Reika's really fast.
でも今からフロントとバックのパターンを引いてると時間がかかってしょうがないので適当に小さいものを作ります。
She says, if I were to make something accurate, it's going to take so much time, so I'm just going to make something small, like, so you can see.
このくらいのサイズでちょっとボディを
We're going to make a body this big.
本当はもうちょっとね大きくやりたいんですけど
We want to make something a little bit bigger, but
布があんまりなかった。
I don't have too much fabric.
よいしょよいしょよいしょよいしょ
It's like for a teddy bear or something. You know? So tiny.
まあこういう、ね、ボディのパターンがあったとしてここを測るのがアームホールですね。
So if you have a body pattern laid out, this is the AH, the armhole measurement.
で、じゃあこれのサイズで私ね、まあ、この布に袖のパターン引いちゃいます。
So using this size, I'm going to make a small sleeve pattern right now.
超ちっちゃい。はい。
It's going to be super small.
だいたい5インチくらいありましたアームホール。
So this one, the armhole is about 5 inches.
1歳くらいかな。
Like maybe a 1-year-old.
ちょっと引いて。
She's basically just tracing that to here, but using very small measurements. I don't think there is. これは皆さんもう持って帰っていいんですか？
あ、持って帰ってください。
But you can keep that if you wanted to, because she doesn't need it back.
はい、日本はコピー安いんでご安心ください。
Copies are very cheap in Japan, so don't worry. But yeah, I don't think they would post it online though. I'm not sure.
アメリカってコピーってコンビニでやるんですか？どこでやるんですか？
コピーはどこでもやります。
あ、どこでもですか？
文房具屋さんとかが多いですかね。
おー、日本ではね、コンビニエンスストアでコピーできるので、いつもどこでもできちゃうんですね。
He's asking like where in America where do you often make copies? So basically anywhere that has a copy machine, but you know a lot of like Staples kind of stores also do it. In Japan, though, it's very prominent to go into something like a CVS, a pharmacy store, a drugstore, convenience stores is like the most common place to make copies. 7-Eleven, yes. And you can buy concert tickets there, and like buy lunch, everything at 7-Eleven. Yes, ATMs. 日本のセブンイレブンはクオリティが高すぎて何でもできますねって言われた。
何でもできる。ガスのお金も払う。
You can even pay for gas.
はい、こんな感じでちょっとちっちゃいんですけどね。
So this is a little small, but this is basically kind of what we're going to do.
はい。でこれ本当はバックスタイルのパターンでこう両方バックなんですけど、今回これをもうフロントとして縫って袖をつけますね。
So this is actually supposed to be for the back of your shirt. However, just for purposes of now, I'm going to use this as a front and one as a back and just put it together so that we can just do the sleeve part.
で、まあ当然のようにね、肩と脇をまず最初に縫っちゃいます。
So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew the shoulder to the armpit area down here, underarm. I don't know how to make this happen for you. You can see it on here, but like that doesn't do anyone any good. こっちめっちゃバッチリ映ってるんですよ。でも、あ、イエーイできた。So first she sewed the shoulder part, and now we're going to do the underarm part. Kind of like this. So this is kind of like if you attach the front and the back patterns together, you visualize. So next we're going to move on to the sleeve. So it seems kind of obvious, but first you're going to fold it in half. We're going to sew the bottom of the sleeve first. So when you're using a sewing machine, a nice trick to use is if you use the other hand that you're using to just gently pull, you can make it without wrinkling the...
ね、長いものを縫ってるとき、時々こう布がどんどんずれて、あれ最後結構違ったなってあるんで。
A lot of times, frequently, if you're sewing something long and you don't keep track of it, you'll notice that it'll be a little different than what you thought. It's so small.
手が通らない。はい、こんな感じ。
My hand doesn't go through, but that's your little sleeve.
で、まあここまでできたら、
So once you get to around here,
これとこれ、袖とこれを縫うんですけど、
you just need to sew this to here.
実はですね、袖っていうのはもともとボディよりちょっと大きいんです、パターンって。
So actually, sleeves, the pattern is a little bit bigger than the body.
時々ジャケットのパターンを街で買った人が、なんでサイズが違うんだみたいな、綺麗に縫えないんだけどっていう人がいるんですね。
So actually, sometimes too, some people would buy the patterns for a jacket and then just wonder why the two don't don't exactly align, but
で本当ならここの丸いところにちょっと大きなこのミシンの目で少しなんだろう、ギャザーを寄せるための工夫をするんですね。
so actually using the circular side of it, what we usually do is using the sewing machines, we create a little bit of a gather.
で、これしょ。まあ返し縫いをせずにちょっと大きなミシンの目でこう。
Using like the widest, yeah. You don't want to do 2 times over, but just once.
こうしてあげて、ちょっと縫ってあげちゃいます、少し。
So you want to sew it like this.
で、片方の糸がね、引っ張れるんですよ。
So one side of it, string you should be able to pull,
なんかね、片方しか引っ張れないね、こう。
but only one side, because you'll have the two. One is pullable.
こうね、ちょっとずつギャザーを入れてあげ
And
る。
you want to pull
こうし
just a little bit to create a little bit of a gather.
そうすると、袖とボディのサイズが合うんですね。
By
もと
doing
もと
so, like it actually aligns quite perfectly to the body.
もともとはそうして縫ってあげるためにサイズが違います。パターンが間違えているわけではないんですね。
So this is the technique that most people use. So it is bigger. It's not a mistake on the pattern's part.
まあこんな感じでギャザーをちょっと寄せていくと、袖がもともとこうカーブしていきますね。
So if you gather it here, you'll also notice that the sleeve points in.
これが洋服があったら、
So if you had like, a shirt like this,
洋服にはこうなってる袖と、
you'll see sleeves that look like this, like short sleeve.
こうなってる袖があるん
Or
ですね。
sleeves that look like this, a little hunch.
まあこっちは要はジャケットですね。
This one is predominantly used for a jacket.
これはまあシャツ。
This one is more for a t-shirt.
でこのジャケット型のスリーブを特に綺麗に作ってあげる。これは同じサイズでパターンを引けば誰でも結構簡単に。このジャケットの袖がこういう風にちょっと最初に丸くしてあげちゃいます。
So the shirt one, actually, it's very basic. If you just fold it in half, you don't really have to do this part to make the shirt. It'll cling on pretty well. But if you're making a jacket, it'll look nicer if you're able to create this gather, more natural.
もう今日着てるやつはあんまりこうぷくってしてないんですけど、
The jacket that I have on currently doesn't really have like the
これ一
the rounded part.
布で
It's the same material though.
1メーター3ドルでした。
1 meter was $3 for this fabric.
すごい安いんで急
It's
いで
super
買って
cheap. So I bought it really fast.
でこういう風に丸くした後、ボディと縫ってあげます。
So after you've made this curve, then we can attach it to the body.
ただギャザーが表には出てはいけないので、ちょっとここはテクニックを必要になりますね。
So because the gathered part can't be shown on the outside, this is where you have to use a little bit of technique to make sure that it's hidden.
で、袖を引いた時三角の一番尖ったところとショルダーのラインを合わせて、
So when you made the pattern, the part, the very tip of the triangle on the very top has to align perfectly with the shoulder part where they meet together. This one, the seam.
で、ちょっとゆっくりめに、私はショルダーのラインから右と左で縫っていきます。ここのラインがちょっと難しいので、一気に縫うとバランスが悪いので、私はここから前後ろって分けてます。
So usually when I do it, because it's kind of hard to go all at once around, I usually separate. I would sew from the front part and then go back from the back part in 2 steps and not like one giant loop.
でこうギャザーにならないように、でもカーブがきれいになるように、ちょっと丁寧にゆっくりと。
he recommends to do this very, very like slowly, so that the fabric itself doesn't like gather in, bunch in. Yes.
これをね雑にするとなんかこの人袖失敗してるなって感じになります。
If you rush and you can tell that someone was trying in a hurry when they made that outfit.
半分縫ったのでもう半分いきます。
So she just did the front, so now we're going to do the other side, the back.
小さい方が難しい。
She says the small things are very difficult to make.
子供服作るのが一番難しいかも。
I think actually making children's clothes is the hardest.
私結構袖つけるの好きで、大きいサイズならザザッと作っちゃうんですけど、ちょっと小さいから大変ですね。
I actually really like making sleeves. Like I really, really enjoy it. And so if it's like my size, it's very easy for me to do. But making something small is very difficult.
ちょっとずれちゃったけど、まあいっちゃいましょう。OK。ヒュー。よいしょ、よいしょ、よいしょ。ほっほっほっ、いいよ。よいしょ。ミシンの糸が変なところに。オッケーオッケーオッケー。綺麗にできてるかな。わあ、できました。
I wonder if it looks nice. Hold on, let me check.
ちょっとね、いらない糸を取っちゃいます。
It's so small.
まあこのちょっと袖がこう丸いカーブで。
So as you can see, there's a little bit of a curve right at the shoulder.
こういう風につけるために袖は本来ボディよりちょっと大きいパターンです。
So because if you wanted to make this little tiny curve, you do have to make sure that it's bigger than the body part, the measurements here.
なのでなんでしょう、ギャザーさっきみたいに縫う前に少しギャザーを入れて少しカーブさせて一気にミシンで縫ってあげると綺麗につきます。
So as I said earlier, just that one little process of applying a little bit of gather before you sew on the sleeve to the body, it will make a very, very nice end result.
特にジャケットっぽい衣装を作るとき、ここがこう丸くなってると、あ、この人分かってるなという感じですね。
Especially when you're making jackets, if there's a little bit of a curve at the sleeve, you're like, this guy, this person, they know what's up.
で、まあ女性もののジャケットであっても、もうちょっと小さくてもいいですね。薄い肩パッドを少しこう当ててあげることで肩のシルエットがより綺麗になるので、1センチぐらいでもいいので、パッドを小さいのを入れてあげるとここが綺麗ですね。
So of course for like men's jackets, you want to add a buff, or even for women's jackets, like if you can just put like a little bit of padding, even if it's like a little 1 centimeter padding, it'll just create like a nice line on your jacket.
Do you change the pattern if you're adding?
肩パッドをつけるときはパターンは変えるんですか？
そうなんです。本当はね、変えたいところ。でも変えるのはボディの方のパターンですね。
So she says yes. However, what you're going to change is the pattern for the body and not the sleeve.
まあこれは一般的なボディの。
So this is a very rough draft of the body.
フロント。
So that the far side is the back, and then this side is the front.
肩パッド入れるとここが要は少し浮いちゃいますよね。
If you put in a shoulder pad, that area she just marked will come up a little bit.
なので、まあちょっとセンチで失礼。
So I'm sorry, this is in centimeters, but
ちょっと上げてあげると
literally just add a little bit, 0.5 centimeters, or like a little tiny bit.
このパッドを入れるスペースができます。
So then there'll be enough space for the shoulder pad.
そうするとね、このアームホールのサイズも少し大きくなるので、それは自動的にちょっと大きくなる。
So then everything would connect. The sleeve part is also made a little bit bigger anyways, so it should all connect.
はい。で、あとよくあるのがなんだろう。まあ女の子が男の子もののコスプレとかするときに、このアームホールを少し出してあげると、ちょっと肩が広くなって男の子っぽいですね。
So this is often very prevalent with if you're like doing like a female would want to do like a male character or look more boyish. If you add a little bit of length to the top part here, it creates maybe like a broader shoulder line. So it looks a little bit more boyish.
なんか自分のここより肩が出てると、あまりここの丸いのもあんま分かりにくい。
So if this line here is a little bit past your arm length, the circularness of your arm, it will be hidden a little bit better.
で、あと例えば、アニメのキャラクターとか、クランプとの作品とかそうなんですけど、キャラの腕がめっちゃ長いんですよ。
So like a lot of times like in like clamp publications, you'll notice that the characters have like ridiculously long arms.
はい。で、腕を長くパターンで見せたい場合っていうのが見せる方法があります。
So there's actually a method to make your arms look very long using this pattern.
ここです。ここ
So right here, if you raise there a little bit,
ここを上げるとですね、こ
if you
の
raise
アーム
this
ホール
part,
このスタートがすごい上に来ます。
if the start of your armhole is up a little bit,
なので、なんだろうな、シルエット的にこう、
it creates like a different kind of silhouette in the body.
このジャケットだとしたら、
Using like this
こう
jacket,
いう
let's
感
say,
じで袖が始まります。こう
the sleeve would start from like a higher point.
そうすると、ちょっと腕がシルエットが見たときに長く見えます。
So when you look at it, it gives the illusion of having longer arms.
このコートもすごいここ短くしてて、上に上げてて、脱ぐといつもこの辺が血が止まってる。
From this jacket too in particular, I have it raised really high. So when I take off this jacket, I notice that some of the blood had stopped flowing. It's so tight.
この辺がね
Around right here.
でもそうすることで手や足をちょっと長く見せるっていうポイントになります。
But by doing this though, it does make your legs, if you're doing pants, or your arms look longer visually.
ということで、まだ時間があるかな？すいません。大丈夫です。あと20分くらい。
はい。
で、もし2枚目、3枚目が袖のパターンをちょっと変えて別の形をする方法の紙を渡してます。
So I actually have the other pages that I want to quickly go over with you on how to make the alterations on the different types of sleeves.
これですね、最初のこういうベーシックなパターンを聞いた後、
So after you created your very basic sleeve pattern,
ですね。
持ちますよ。あれ。
例えばプリントであるこういうちょっとギャザーの入った袖、
So I'm going to show you like the little sleeve that has a little bit of gather.
なんかこういう袖がやりたい。
So if you want to make a sleeve that looks like that there, it's a little gathered,
いうボリュームかわからない。
but you don't know exactly how poofy.
そうもっと例えばギャザーをたくさん入れたい。
Or if you wanted to add even more gathering than that one, more bunchings.
なんかこう。ふわってもうすごく可愛く丸くしたいとか。
Like if you want super cute, like super round, princessy sleeves.
まあ少しだけでいい人、
Or just a little tiny bit, a little accent.
そういうのもこのベーシックのパターンを弾けたら、これをバラバラに一度トレースします、別の紙に。
Okay, so once you've done this basic pattern here, we're going to trace this once on a separate sheet of paper or whatever pattern paper you're using.
こういうのを2枚目にでででーんと、こういうパターン用の薄い紙は布屋さんとかのコーナーにあります。
So if you go to any fabric store, you can find these like really see-through paper, tracing paper.
こういう感じで 1回目に引いた自分のパターンをトレースします。
You're going to trace the outline of their first pattern that you created,
こんな感じで。
something like this.
はい、で、まあプリントにあるんですけど、何センチだったかな。これより分かったでしょうか。はい。例えばこれをこういう感じで4、あ、5になる。本当は4です。
So you're supposed to divide this into 4, but I accidentally divided this into 5. But it should be 4.
まあ大切なのはこのパターンを同じサイズでまずカットのデザインのラインを入れます。
But what's important is actually to make sure that all the lines that you do make, however many you make, are even. They're evenly spaced.
そうでこういうのを結構ねちょっと手間はかかるんですけど、ハサミでこうカットしてパーツごとにカットしちゃいます。
So this kind of takes a little bit of time to do, but with a pair of scissors, you're going to cut each section.
例えば
So for example,
ちょっとね時間があんまりないんで、
I don't have too much time, so I'm going to explain this kind of roughly.
例えばこういう感じ
But each part you want to cut.
そうですね、下には落としてです。まあ全部のパーツをカットしたとして思ってください。
So let's pretend that I've just cut all of them out.
そしてまあギャザーでその増やしたいギャザーの部分ですね。ここの増やしたいギャザーの自分のイメージの部分をここにあった分を例えばセンチですのでね、このぐらい足してここにさらにこうやってトレースしていくんです。
So you want to create, like first imagine how the size of the gatherings that you want to create. And just for a rough number, I'm going to say 5 centimeters. But let's say you wanted to create like kind of a bigger area, then you would take from, this is kind of hard to see, this is from where I cut out, about 5 centimeters from there, and then trace another exact same thing.
このカットラインのとこを全部足してジュジュジュジュジュンとこう横に広げていく。
So you want to keep doing that, actually, this process over and over and over for each one of these. So you're going to create like a wider sleeve, but it should still be even.
まあこういうふうにもし分けた場合、だんだんこういうふうにちょっと変な形にまたパターンがなっていくんですね。
So after you've done it, you'll notice that you'll create this like weird, like fan pattern.
こんな感じになっていくんですね。
So 5 centimeters from each part, and then tracing each part again to create one wide.
こうなっていったらまたここからなんとなく全体的なバランスを取りながらこういう感じで引き直してあげます。
And then after you've gathered all of the sections that you're going to do, you want to trace like a basic outline one more time.
こうすることでギャザーが入ったパフスリーブですねが作れます。
So by doing this, you're able to create like a very poofy sleeve with the extra fabric that you have that'll still be your size.
でこのもっと大きくしたいって言えばこれは棒じゃなくて。
So if you want to create even bigger poofs, instead of 5 centimeters, you can do 10 centimeters or however many centimeters you want.
大切なのはギャザーのスリーブが作り
What's important
これはダメです
is if you want to make a gathered sleeve, just don't only expand sideways.
買ってきたパターンを、まあ、例えばシャツのパターン買ってきてここを大きくしたらギャザーになるんじゃないって言ったらそういうことにはなりません
So if you like just buy a pattern and then you're like, oh, if I just add a little bit of centimeters right here, it'll be fine. It actually won't create a very nice
な
circle.
のでちょっと面倒くさいですがトレースをしてパターンをカットして均等に少しずつ足してあげてください
So this might be a very time-consuming process, but I highly recommend to cut out each section and then retracing each part and then redrawing your curve to create a very nice-looking sleeve.
プリント最初に皆さんに渡したプリントには、まあ、それのなんとなく分かりやすい図があります
On one of the handouts, you'll see the diagram of the process that I just did.
で下も増やそうかなでまた今度ここですねよくある
And another part, yeah, right
ここが
there.
ギャザーが入れたい場合そうそうそう
When you want to put a little bit of bunching, like on the bottom here.
これだと、まあ、下もこうギャザーが入ってくるんですけどギャザーを入れるとこうねまっすぐは縫うと変になってくるんですよ
So when you add a gathering and some kind of bunching area, if you sew straight, it kind of becomes weird. Like it doesn't actually go very straightly.
こう布がパフがこうまあ乗ってくるのでなんかこうなので配ったプリントが下がこうずいぶん変なこんな形になっていくんですね
So you'll notice that on the handout, you'll see this like weird shape bottom of a weird shape.
なんか下変だぞとかなる
It should be like a long and then a curve. You'll notice, you'll look at it and be like, this looks weird.
それはまあ布のこう変化に合わせてパターンが変わっているので意味が全部に意味があります
There is a meaning to it. It's just when your patterns change, a lot of altercations have to happen on both sides.
はいで今度は例えばドレスで、まあ、こういうのがあったとしましょう
So let's say you were creating like a dress and you wanted this kind of flowy sleeve.
これも同じようにこうやって細長くまずカットラインを入れて今度は置いといて、まあ、細長いパターンができたらこうやってカットした後こう上はあんまり開けずにこういう風に置いていきます
So like this dress sleeve here, if you wanted to do something like this, you would still create your lines on your sleeve, but instead of having these evenly spaced distances like the 5 centimeters she was showing you earlier, you just kind of put them at like an angle with a little bit of space between.
こういう風にザーッと置いていくことでドレープのある袖もパターンができます
So by doing something like this, you can create a sleeve that has a little bit more of a drape. So the top part here isn't going to be exactly the same spacing. It's more at the bottom. Like this.
なのでそういうドレープのある袖もここからこうしたらいいんじゃないかっていう問題ではないということを覚えておいてください
So I just want you to know that like if you want to create like a draped sleeve, you can't just add fabric to here to make a drape.
そうすると結局なんかシルエット変だなみたいになっちゃいます
Like you could do it, but you'll notice that the silhouette is a little off. Like it doesn't look right.
袖のパターンっていうのは広くしたりする場合は必ず同じサイズでラインを引いてカットして広げる
So if you ever wanted to make any kind of alteration on the basic sleeve, you want to add gathering, you want to add like length, whatever, you always, always, always should make your basic pattern and then divide them into sections and always retrace.
はいという感じですが時間は大丈夫でしょうかおおじゃあ質問の時間をしましょうか
Okay, so we have like 9 minutes left. We'd love to open the floor up to questions. If you
ま
had
あ
any
そ
questions.
れ以外でも型紙とかその縫い方について答えれる範囲で
It doesn't have to be about sleeves. It could be about like any kind of clothing if you had any questions. that I can answer, I would love to answer.
Like I guess like to have it closed in this way, like I guess like straight this way instead of like slanted. Is there a specific way to like sew it so that this part is like?
彼女のここの袖の部分が今、Can you put your arm up?
大きいですね。
こう下がってるんですけど、まっすぐこう中に縫う方法ってあるんですか？もうちょっと。
これはね、まあもしこのコスチュームを直すとしたら、まずその袖のグレーのとこ外しますね。
So if you wanted to actually adjust this that you have right now, the first thing you do is to take off that gray band part.
大きすぎるんですね、グレーのとこ
I think the band part is just too big right now, is what it is.
ジャストにここにフィットするサイズでグレーのをちょっと縫って切って短く小さくします。
So you want to first measure out the circumference of your arm right here and cut the remaining fabric so that it like fits right on your arm.
そしてその白いところに入ってるギャザーがすごくバランスが今悪いです。ここにだけ入って、ここが入ってないギャザーが。
So you can actually see on this one here, but like there's a lot of gathering that's done here, but it's not very even everywhere.
なのでさっきのミシンで大きい針で一周きれいにゆるく縫ってちょっと糸できれいにギャザーを入れてあげればだいぶ形がきれいになると思います。
So I think kind of like what I showed you earlier with just doing the one time around and then creating a gather by pulling the string. If you do that around the entire arm and then reattach the gray, I think it'll look a lot better. Mm-hmm.
はい。
How much would you usually leave for a seam allowance on the sleeve, and how would you handle taking care of like the seams on the inside of where it connects with the shoulder?
ちょっともう説明した感じなんですけど、どれぐらいのなんていうんですか、布のなんていうんだろうこれ。
このギャザー量みたいな。
そうそうそう。どれぐらいエクストラで布をつけるんですかって。
この袖の方が大きい。
うん。
そうですね。まあ大体2センチあれば多いくらいかな。2センチって何インチ？はい。
書いてたっけ？書いてない。ですね。So about if you have like 0.8 inches of room, this should be okay for
多いとやっぱ
basically.
り難しいし、だんだんパフスリーブみたいになっていくので。
If you add too much allowance to this, it becomes very poofy, like a lot. And so about 0.8 inches, well 2 centimeters would be like a great amount. Do you had a second part to your question, but I don't remember.
Like where it connects the extra that's left underneath, how would you take care of that? Like would you press it down with an iron or?
でギャザーをした後にこう残る布をどう処理するんですか？
残るのこっち側？
そうですね。こっち側のこれはアイロンとかで
おー、
ぺたんこにするんですか？
いや、あんまり変にアイロン当てちゃうとこのせっかくの丸いシルエットが結構消えちゃうので、なんでしょう。本当ならここにさらに当てるパーツっていうのが本当のジャケットならあるんですね。
So actually, if you do put with iron on it, it'll like mess the shape. So at the store, what they usually have is they have a little like piece of fabric that you put specifically around this.
で私はもうこうやって肩パッドを当てることでシルエットを維持するようにしてます。
So what I usually do is I just put the shoulder pad, if I'm making a jacket, like directly on the extra fabric to create the shape for it. But you can also buy the little like connecting.
Does she clip the seams?
ここの余った布は切るんですか？
あとね、
めっちゃいっぱいあったら。
切らない方がいいですね。まあジャケットならこうやって裏地をつければここは見えなくなりますね。はい。
Just I highly recommend not cutting it actually. So if you were making if you're making like a jacket, if you put like a little like cover part, you won't be able to see it anyways. But if you mess too much with it, like it could stick out and things could not lay properly.
どうしてもこのままで気になる人はその処理をするロックミシンとかバインダーでパイピングしたりとかする人もいます。
But if it really, really bothers you, there are specific methods that you can use. Like you can bind it separately a different way, or you can buy a different kind of sewing machine that helps press the edges together. うやってピーンと立たせるのはなんか特別に方法あるんですか？
ああ、これはね、
襟のところ
インターフェースっていうんでしたっけ、真珠のりがついて、アイロンでつく、ちょっと布が硬くなる真珠を入れることでピシッとします。この辺。
Are you familiar with interfacing? It's like a technique where you have like kind of like a dryer paper looking thing, and you with an iron you attach it, and it creates like a very like thick binding inside. Yeah,
のりがついてる
with
んで
like
アイロンでつけます
you there's like a glue attached to this interfacing, and then with the iron it sticks to clothing or it sticks to fabric, and then that way it creates more firmer fabric.
まあ裏地とか売ってるコーナーに結構一緒に置いてあっ
The
たり
same place where they have things like this, the inside of a jacket, like the fabric for that, they do also sell these interfacing.
カラーに中に貼るものをくださいって言えば布屋さんは多分あこれだよって
If you just tell anyone, if you can't remember interfacing, but you go to a fabric store, like, can I have that thing that binds to the fabric that makes it firmer? They'll know. I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah.
For your sleeves, bandages, is it actually use bandage or should it be a sleeve of some sort to
これ本当に包帯なんですかって。
あこれくっつく包帯
She's, yeah, it's actually bandages.
足怪我はしていません
But I'm not hurt, don't worry.
はい
Is there any other question? I have 2 minutes.
あとまあ最後一つくらいじゃ
One more question. Or if not, we'll send.
これすごいでしょ
She says, isn't this amazing? Sorry, I'm gonna like brag about this for a moment. These are like, they're rechargeable too. So we told all the guests, please recharge your badge. She's like, I feel like this is the first time a convention has told me to recharge my badge. But yeah, the super LED ones. Okay, so if there's no more questions, I guess we'll wrap up today. Thank you so much for coming, and I hope you learned something.
今日もあと明日もまだ他にもワークショップあるので、まあ時間があればぜひ来てください。
I do have a few more workshops throughout the weekend, even one today, and then 2 more, I think, tomorrow. So if you have some time, please come by.
この後はマーチャダイジングのテーブルの方にしばらくいるので、お時間あればお話とかしに来てください。
So right after
ここは多分進め
here,
ないといけないので
I'd have to clear this room for the next one, but I will be in the marketplace at my booth for a few minutes, maybe an hour or so. So if you had any questions or just wanted to say hi, please stop by. Thank you.